Quack. A quack, quack, quack. A quack. Quack. 12 and 0. I'm your host, Adam Chamel.
And I'm Aaron Schroeder.
Oh boy, Aaron. I guess let's just start this off by saying I'm freaking stoked for this team. I am hitting the button. I am going full on hype. Is that fair to say? I've been watching a lot of Duck football. I don't know about you. Aaron, have you been watching much? I mean, we should break down your role here. You are sound engineer first. You are Duck fan second, and then you are a Duck watcher and knower of what's going on third. Does that sound about right? Fifth. Oh, what's the third and the fourth then?
Everything else.
The world, everything else.
World in general.
And then
okay, I think I watched this game live because it started at 6:30 or some shit, or 6. I think I'm on the exact same boat. I think I'm on the full-on hype as well, because boy, howdy, that seemed like the accurate kind of game we should have.
Absolutely. And Aaron, so what's giving me hype here, and what I imagine we started this podcast in 2017. That was basically your real introduction into the world of college football, was it not? Does that sound about right?
Yeah, completely.
You didn't have
I'm actually sitting here trying to be like, what year? I would make, and I don't know, so you probably know better.
Yeah.
But I will say, here's what's great, is I would say I probably didn't really start paying attention for another 2.5 years.
2019, like halfway through the 2019 season. That sounds right.
Yeah. Maybe in that summer, that off season when we were having a really great time on the old episodes. Yeah. Now it's all business.
Now it's goddamn business because Dan Lanning's here. So we started 2017, the Willie Taggart era. We had left the Mark Helfrich. You're such a summer child. You don't even know the Mark Helfrich era, really, or the end of the Chip Kelly era, which is what makes this huge game coming up against UCLA, not this week, but the next week. It's gonna feel pretty damn huge, honestly. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is UCLA that we're coming up against next, right?
Mm-hmm. We got bye, and then we got UCLA.
Do you think the bye week will affect it?
I think the bye week will affect it huge. And what I really like, also what.
Oh, sorry, I meant to add negatively or positively. Which way are you leaning? Because I sometimes think a week off is bad.
Mm-hmm.
But if they've been playing at a very high level, so some recoup is probably good.
Well, this is the thing too. They get a week off too. They actually planned this. Kudos to the Pac-12 because they made it so this is actually going to be a pretty good matchup, specifically because both of us get a bye week going into it.
Oh, both teams have a bye. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Most of the time it's not that way. But,
right.
Yeah. And then like Chip Kelly, he is so like, say what you will about Potato Chip, as you always call him.
Well, I have to.
You're not a fan, we know. But I know and respect him enough to fear him. Okay.
Sure.
Just like I do real potato chips. And
yeah, that's also true.
So Chip Kelly, if you give him a week to plan, he can sometimes make you look really embarrassing. And every single time he's been here since he's become head coach, every time he's played the Ducks, he has really brought it to him. Not the first time we played, but ever since then, it's like we were lucky to escape. And like last time DTR got like hurt, but it still came to like the final drive. Like we've been lucky to escape. At the same time, this is the best team we've had seemingly in a while, since that 2019 team that got you so intrigued there. Because like I want to look at the hype here, why we're a little hyped, okay?
Right.
2017 Willie Taggart. Now, I was forcing myself to be hyped. I mean, I was a bit of a summer child there, too, because I wasn't very used to us having to hire outside. We would always promote, like from within, we would get our head coaches.
Oh, no shit.
And it was a really good system because, I mean, we had like, we had Rich Brooks to Mike Bellotti to Chip Kelly to Mark Helfrich. And, like, that goes all the way back to, the 70s. Or not really, to the 80s. Yeah. No, to the 70s. Yeah, I knew. Never second-guess myself. I got to remember that. I got to be like Bo Nix, my hero. He just does it. He just scores the touchdown or throws the pick six.
Man,
either way, he's scoring.
You keep dropping little nuggets of things I want to talk about, but I know we need to go through this history lesson real quick, so hit me with it.
Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. Back to... So all that happened, but then Willie Taggart, and I was rallying it up, I was like, oh, Willie Taggart, he's going to be great. We all know how that ended up. Old Turnhill Will, Slick Will, 1 year, one and done, and he goes to his dream job, the curse of Oregon head coaches. And then Mario Cristobal comes in. We promote from within that staff, which was a little risky. And Aaron, didn't it feel like that whole time? I mean, 2019 was different because the defense was very good, specifically that secondary. Kayvon Thibodeau was very effective when he was on the field. It was just a really good team in general, and we had Justin Herbert, and the receiving core kind of like woke up. C.J. Verdell was very fun to watch. And so, like, that team was really good, but still, the offense always felt like it was like there was kind of like a lid on it. Or like it wasn't just like truly explosive to the point where it was like, I was doubting Herbert at that point. I mean,
you should, because he was bad.
He wasn't like, I wouldn't say that. Those are your words. I would definitely never say that. Certainly on our next podcast. Plus, it was like he was good, but the system was holding him back.
Huh?
And like this is the first time. That's what I think. And this is the first time.
Oh, shit. Have I been wrong this whole time? Was it the coaching? I
kind of think so.
Okay. Quick divergence, because this was one thing I did want to bring up.
That's basically what I wanted to get to, is just that this is the first time since, like, basically Mark Helfrich, that I felt really good about the offense. That it's just like the lid's off. The kick-ass is out.
So what this last game did to me was make me go, I want to learn as much as I can about our coaching staff.
Nice.
Like, I want to learn their philosophies on coaching. I want to learn what their standards and practices are. You know what I mean? Just to be like, they've got it humming, it seems like.
I think so. Well, I'll tell you this. Kenny Dillingham.
The system is good.
Yeah. There you go. I love that. That's why you're on this freaking show, man.
Yeah.
Kenny Dillingham, he was a risk, right, as OC, and it did feel like maybe there's a little cronyism, possibly. Like, if things were going to go bad really quickly, it was going to be because, like, well, Dan Lanning hired his old buddy, from Memphis, I believe. But
I mean, 2020 hindsight or whatever, but at the time I didn't feel that way. I was like, oh, this is the guy he likes. This is his golden opportunity to bring everybody up with him. Mm-hmm. Go for it. Fuck it.
And it was that. And it's like, in a lot of ways, just like the way we brought up Chip Kelly, who was our offensive coordinator, and we decided to take a little bit of a risk on him, but there was like the best part about it. I mean, it proved out to be he was like an offensive genius. But on top of that, it was more like he already knows where everything is. He knows the coaching staff. He knows how things works. And like Dan Lanning was just starting, his entire head coaching career, and he wanted a guy that he was familiar with, like the offensive mind of it. And clearly, Kenny Dillingham was hungry for it. And I'll tell you this, dude. So ASU, Herm Edwards, he's out. They fired him.
Right.
And suddenly, like, people are even talking about Kenny Dillingham because he has some connections to Arizona. Being like,
fuck off.
Maybe he'll be the head coach. And
get the fuck out of here. No, he's ours forever.
He's ours. I definitely want. I mean,
family.
It seems simple what he's doing almost, right? Where it's just like, well, first of all, tight ends, baby. I love how many. I mean, we got that big jumbo package. You know when we're on that line, and then suddenly we look way bigger. It's because we're bringing
Yeah.
in like Connerly and like Patrick
Well,
Herbert,
yeah.
Justin's brother's coming out, and he's playing fullback, blocking out there. Like, yeah,
It
it's
also
fun
doesn't
stuff.
hurt that we have a running back that can just stomp down the field.
Dude, we have multiple running backs, yeah. But specifically Bucky Irving and Noah
Yeah.
Whittington are real like thud dudes. They'd
Yeah.
be fun to watch.
So really, I mean, the funny part about it is that it feels like we're in that magical moment where the coaching and the talent have matched each other perfectly.
Mhm. I mean, well, defensively, there's a little bit of an issue. Would you agree on that?
Why?
I think, I mean, not particularly coming off of this game do I think, like, oh, that was a bad defensive performance. I think we, like, let up a lot in the second half. Or specifically for, like, 2 plays that really altered the score here. But I think if there is, I guess it's just that the offense is doing so well that I think the defense, that's where, like, if we were able to fine-tune that, if we were able to shave a touchdown off, every game or something like that.
But, okay, so that team, was it Arizona State? It's already been so long.
Arizona, the Wildcats, my dear.
Right,
boy.
the Wildcats. They immediately showed themselves off to be that team that is, like, fair to middling, but they take deep shots. And they're fair to middling, but they hit them sometimes. And sometimes you're like, well, shit.
Yeah.
So I think we already knew that was going to be a case.
Absolutely.
So I don't know that I don't know that the defense was all that bad.
Oh, I don't think so. Not in
at
this
least,
game, yeah.
Yeah, everything that I saw, I was like, well, this all seems to be expected from this kind of an offense.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, and
it seemed like we were just managing it. It was one of those we can score goals faster games.
absolutely.
And that seems to be kind of the game plan as well, is like, look, we can score goals faster.
I think this season, like I was saying, like going into this season, it's like a lot of the reason why people have so much like hope for the defense is because we have a defensive-minded coach. But not only that, but it was like a lot of times a defense can gel quicker than an offense. But like on paper, the offense looked really good. The offense is like boom, like way better than last season. Both because people are like, got another year on him, but also I truly believe because Cristobal isn't here. Who, by the way, Cristobal is having like a terrible season at Miami. Like a truly terrible season. Yeah.
Of course
it's
he
a curse. If you leave Oregon for your dream job, you're going to look like a fool.
Well,
guaranteed.
Yeah, shit's different in Florida.
Exactly. Well, Miami, yeah. And like he's getting paid so much at Miami, but we'll see how that works
maybe
out.
he's just like paychecked. He's like, deuces. I got
silent
paycheck.
quitting immediately. Gets the job, silent quits. He's like, I just want to live in Miami.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Oh, but
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. But for this game, like, so the defense, but the offense, like, yeah, immediately, like they are off to the races, and that is a huge part because Bo Nix is just locked in. He knows this thing. Like he is. This is why you got a veteran quarterback. I mean, to transfer into the system.
Oh God! But I was so sad in this game too because it's like he's going to be gone in a year.
He's going to be gone. A lot of people are like, because he does have eligibility if he wanted to come back. But I want to just put. I just want to
got an NFL season building up right now.
Yeah,
he's building up that fucking resume, baby.
Yeah, and I seriously think, from the sounds of it, from interviews, from what I've heard and stuff like that, it's like he's already married. He's living here like 1 year. Like his goal is like, I'm sure he likes Eugene, but I don't think he wants to live here one more year.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Is Eugene a place where you would raise a family?
Absolutely, it's a really good place. to raise a
Well, then maybe he'll
family.
stay, because if we
Yeah.
can get him into that mindset,
Uh
what we could have here is direct control of a baby that we can form into the greatest quarterback of all time, so that in 20 years time
yeah.
we have just this rock star. we'll be
I, d-
I'll be 60 and I'll be like, we made this little fucker.
I don't know where you made this jump to like we'll have complete control over this child and we
Well,
made this because we won't have anything to do with it if he decides to stay here. I think
sure,
we
but
should pull the strings. Yeah.
Eugene will
Mhm.
mold him into this quarterback of legend.
Oh yeah, I
Because
mean
it's-
Justin Herbert. You're already talking about the quarterback of legend.
Yeah, now that you've opened up my eyes to the system, I guess I'm just ready to receive it now, that maybe he was great and it was the system that failed him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he got us to the Rose Bowl, so it was a complete failure. And speaking of things that Cristobal gave to us that we should actually thank him for, including that Rose Bowl victory, our offensive line is keeping things so clean back there that is really the main reason
Wow,
why
great
Bo
point.
Nix, why Bo Nix is able
Wow.
to just like we've had one sack this entire season, and it was kind of like an iffy. It was almost not a sack, and then we've had 0 negative plays in this game.
Right.
I do believe
that blew my mind.
like, there's not much to talk about this game, but don't worry, listeners. We got a guest coming on, and we are going to go over this game with a fine-tooth comb. But, like, this game was such a beatdown that there's not a whole lot, yeah.
Well, let's transition, because here's my big question about UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
They're going into this undefeated, correct?
Yes.
Which seems an unfair eschewment of the situation, because maybe their schedule didn't have Georgia in the first week because we were playing Georgia, so they've had an easier schedule. How much does that matter, that undefeated mark? Should we be concerned about that?
The good thing about the undefeated mark, I think there's only positives about them being undefeated.
Is that it could break at any time?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like it makes it so even though our schedule is harder purely because Georgia was on it, it's nice that it's like, so they're coming to Eugene. They're ranked as of right now 1 spot.
This game is
higher
in
than
Eugene?
us. This game is in Eugene, of course. Yeah. In Eugene, so that's a huge advantage. They're ranked 1 spot higher than us at this moment. We got 1 week of rankings before then. We'll only go up, though. If anything happens, we'll only be going up. It probably will not be game day, which is, the way they choose like the official most important game and make a big spectacle out of it and stuff like that. I don't believe it will be, unfortunately, even though it totally should be. So they're coming to Oregon. They're undefeated, and I feel like it's just good just because we want our players thinking that the media and everyone else thinks that these players are better than them. We want that chip on the shoulder. We want them to like get rallied for it, not to be like, we're favored, we're better, we can sleepwalk past this. Not that I necessarily think that would happen, but yeah. And UCLA, so this is a good time just to kind of like go into their season, what I've seen so far. Well, and a lot of their games have been like during our games. But yeah, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to ask you a quick question before we deep dive.
What's that?
Is that means the third quarter dance? What's going to happen?
Who knows? I mean, hey,
bub on that hub.
What's that? Put a bub on that hub?
Yeah, has there been more hubbub?
Not yet. Well, because it's only been like at Autzen is when we're playing that music, and
right, which is coming up.
Autzen.
So
yeah, who knows, dude? Maybe it's like if we play a clean game. But at the same time, it's like I get being like, hey, the fourth quarter. It doesn't matter how big the lead is or anything. Fourth quarter's coming up. Like this is like pay attention to get locked in. Don't be dancing. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see what happens though. I mean, it's kind of intimidating though too.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's fine either way, honestly. If that's how he wants to run the program, fine, whatever. Who cares? It's just a silly dance. It's a traditional thing. Let the audience, let the fans have it, you know?
What I do like,
Players don't need to
though,
be having it.
is the hubbub of being like, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? You know, like being like,
Well, if
oh,
that
that's kind
shit's
of fun.
not stirring, we should be on Twitter right now talking solely about it. Because come on, that is the biggest news of this upcoming game is going to be what's going to happen with the dance.
That's a very good, very, very good point, Aaron.
Here's what I say.
Mm-hmm.
If we're up by 2 scores and a field goal. So if we're actually up by 2 touchdowns and a field goal, I say let them dance, but come on now. If we're up by less than that, no dancing. If we're down by 21 or more, dance.
I kind of get that, actually.
Yeah, if
That's
we're down by 7, no dancing. You know what I mean?
No,
just gauge
that
it.
is a good
like,
point.
It's all about, will the dance hurt or help the performance as it's needed in the fourth quarter?
And at the same time, like, I totally agree with you. At the same time, I can also see why Dan Lanning's like, fuck this. I don't got time to be thinking about if this pep dance is going to give us enough pep.
Well, I hope he's putting some level of philosophical input into his teachings, because, I mean, you're talking about, in the end, the ability to work well together in teams.
See, and we've found your role. This would be your actual role. What we need is team guru. Like,
that's what I need to be doing.
Team vibe checker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's why I want to learn about the coaching staff more, and as far as like their history and what kind of things they do, like who are they emulating in their coaching style, and then learn about those coaches and understand then this greater level of philosophy that I can
get them on the show.
Go,
don't worry about it.
Yeah, we're gonna do this.
Well, let me tell you,
UCLA. The Matrix, because I want to go in.
Just so you know, I mean, this is in 2 weeks. We're talking about UCLA too much, but I mean, this is what's on our mind. This is the big game coming up. I just want you to know this is what UCLA has been up to this whole time. They're 6-0. They've gone against. This is their really bad non-con, and honestly, they looked pretty sloppy and straight up bad in a lot of the non-con, because you got Bowling Green. They're not a great team. I mean, they were really bad last season.
Right.
And
I remember this.
Yeah, they were really bad. This season, it's been a while since I've kept up on Bowling Green football. You know what? I don't even fucking care. I don't even care what the record is. They're not that great. Alabama State 45-7. You should beat Alabama State 45-7. And then South Alabama actually gave them a real game. It was 32-31. And if not for a fake field goal attempt by the underdog South Alabama, it was like they were going to go for the field goal, but then they went for a fake, and it was like pretty bad idea. And like,
could they have won with the field goal?
Mm-hmm. Like, it would have been huge.
Fools.
But so they end up losing by 1 point. That's their only loss. So it's like, at first that looked terrible. It looked like UCLA was going to be a garbage fire. But South Alabama has actually ended up being a really good team. So that hasn't looked so bad. And then for their Pac-12 play, they've had 3 games. Colorado's really bad. They may not win a single game this season. So
that
doesn't even count.
I hope that's not true, because I love the Buff men.
I know, me too, dude. They already fired their head coach.
Any place where you can smoke-a-thon, I'm for. I'm for the teams that live there.
Pray for Colorado is all I'm saying, dude.
Oh, except for UCLA.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Sorry.
The Buffs beat them or the Buffs were beaten 45-17. And then, so Washington, which is having this big game.
Right.
This is they have to travel to
I heard
the Rose
about
Bowl,
this.
to Pasadena, to take on UCLA. And UCLA, with barely a home field advantage, they beat Washington 40-32. It was a big upset.
Yeah.
They actually, went up to a huge lead in the first half, and Washington had to rally back. Washington since then has looked a little bit more mortal. We'll get into that later. But then they went to Utah had to go and take on UCLA, take UCLA on at home.
Right.
And spoiler alert for the picks, UCLA won that game.
Right, 'cause they're
42 to
undefeated,
32.
these
They're
assholes.
undefeated, yeah. Utah is not the team they were last year. Let's get into that. They totally aren't the team. But they are a well-coached team. They are decent enough. They got an identity, and they lost, by 10 points to UCLA. DTR has been there for freaking 6 years, and he's best season he's had by far. He's really quick. He's making good decisions, good passer. Still every once in a while making, crazy, chaotic moves, but which are both good and bad for his team. But he's having
the
a great
announcers
year.
love saying DTR as well.
You gotta say Dorian Thompson-Robinson, but yeah, DTR. I mean, that's pretty good, right? DTR. Also, you got Bobo. Bobo is the receiver who's having a great year for them. And then Zach Charbonnet is damn good. He is their running back.
What's his last name?
Charbonnet.
Charbonnet.
Yeah, get ready for this too because he's a big punishing back. I mean, so that's their big three, and we got so much time to amp up that matchup. But I just wanted you to get ready for it. And plus,
I've been hyped
Chip
since
Kelly.
Yeah, I've been hyped since the third quarter of the last game. Shit, I've been hyped about the UCLA game since the first quarter of the last game because I was like, "Oh, it's lights out. This is the end of the game."
You're like
As
every other.
They
Duck
would
fan.
say the second quarter began garbage time. I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, this is how we're talking about this Oregon-Arizona game is that we're quickly talking about work at UCLA just because we're so excited about,
Right.
And this game was there wasn't much to talk about. I'm glad that, penalties were not a thing like they were against Stanford because that really put a damper on that whole win. Aaron, I believe we'll need to go to a commercial break.
Oh.
And then after that, you can bet your bottom dollar that we've got a special guest coming on.
Who
an
could
honorary
it be?
guest, if you will. Who could it be? Could it be someone we have on every week? We got to think of a better title. We got our resident film reviewer coming on after this commercial break. But first, a word from our sponsor, which is this very podcast that you're listening to. A podcaster.
Hey,
Come over here. Come over here.
Get over here,
Yeah.
punk.
Nice headphones you got in your ear.
Ooh, yeah, I like those, Chevy.
Be a shame if something were to happen to those headphones, eh?
Ooh, it'd be bad.
Stomped them on the ground, eh? Be real easy to avoid that smashing if you went over to the Quack12 Twitter account and gave us a little follow. Just a little follow, that's all we're asking. And hey, look at that. I hear you listening to your new podcast eps in your car, huh? Driving home, making the long journey feel a little shorter, eh? Is that what he's doing there, bud? Yeah, turning your 3-hour drive into a nice little vacation, huh? Be a shame if your car ended up on the bottom of a lake.
Splash.
Splash maybe with you in the trunk of it, huh?
Glug, glug, guzzle, guzzle.
Maybe all that can be avoided with a little trip to the Quack 12 page on Apple Podcasts. All you got to do is go to Apple Podcasts, Quack 12, give us
Internet.
5 stars. Yeah, the internet, you got it, bud. 5 stars. Leave us a little comment. Help other people find it. Maybe it'll help people find you when they find out that you're gone missing, if you catch my drift.
You seen the posters on the telephone poles?
Yeah, those are people that didn't give us fucking 5 stars. Some of them did, and we did it anyways. And then oh hey, look at this podcaster on their long continental flight, making things not so bad, not wanting to hear that baby by covering it up. Wah, wah, so they say. Putting on them headphones. Trying to get the sky waitress's attention.
Get over here. Give me more of that Quack 12 podcast.
Yeah. Why don't you? Yeah, you want some more of that Quack 12 podcast, don't you?
Yeah.
You want to buy some more from us, don't you?
Get it.
Otherwise, because if you don't buy this Quack 12 podcast insurance, you never know when your plane's going to go straight down into the water, into the old Atlantic, never to be seen again.
Glug, glug, guzzle, guzzle.
In case you don't want to be part of the rock and roller club at the bottom of the fucking ocean, then I recommend you go to the Quack 12 Patreon. Come on. Why don't you go to the Quack 12 Patreon, give us 5 smackaroos, and for that we can forget about the whole nasty business, have you on your way.
Forget about it.
We'll forget about it, all right? $5 measly. That's all I got.
Now listen up, punk.
Because it looks like you're not seeing so good right now.
My boss is talking to you, chump.
Aren't you, chump? Yeah, that's what I thought. All right, let him go, Mikey. Let him go. In the bottom of the fucking ocean. Ayo! Quack, quack. And we are back on Quack. Wow. Longer and longer every time we play
an
it.
epic journey.
We certainly spent many hours recording that. Now, Aaron, we got plenty of time to talk about UCLA, so let's put a cork in it, okay? Let's stop that. Let's stop the Bruin talk, because that'll be brewing for a while. Let's get back to the game that was at hand, and that was the Arizona game. And to do that, I think we should bring in our resident film reviewer, as well as Addicted to Quack's resident film reviewer.
What?
You know him. You love him. That is right. Hythloday. How's it going, Hythloday?
Oh, it's going pretty good. This is, Oregon's been blowing out opponents, and it's been nice in the sense that I get to watch, some film on the backups. In particular, the backup offensive line looks pretty intriguing, and they're probably gonna have a bunch of departures from the offensive line at the end of this season. So like getting those guys some playing time is good. But like I posted my article this morning, and like I only had about 82 snaps to work with for the entire game before it went into garbage time, which is like, I think this is like the shortest article that I've, written up, and that includes some FCS, opponents.
Aaron guessed the second quarter was the beginning of garbage time. Was he correct there?
It got close. No, I marked it at when Bucky Irving crossed the goal line to make it 42-13.
That felt like it. Yeah.
I mean, but I probably could have just done it
The
at
nail,
halftime, frankly. Like, yeah. No. I mean, the remarkable thing is, not just like. Not just the fact that like Oregon scored 7 consecutive touchdowns in this game, but the way that Oregon had a dominant rushing attack. That shouldn't be a real surprise. Arizona's rush defense is terrible. Oregon's rush offense is amazing. But Arizona starts out the game in a cover 2 look, which is good for stopping deep passes. And then, Oregon shredding them with the run game. So they spin down one of the safeties. And that doesn't really help. In fact, I've got a clip in my article of like, here's one of the snaps in which they spin down one of the safeties in order to help with the run. And he actually beats Troy Franklin's block to get inside to stop the run. But then Bucky Irving just runs over him and then kind of like crawls like a 3-legged dog for another 6 yards to turn it into an 8-yard gain. And it's like, sorry, Wildcats, so then they spin down the second safety and now Oregon's just hitting deep shots over them. So it's like that had the effect of shortening the game even faster, because like now Oregon's like, well, fine, you don't have any safeties in the backfield. I'm just going to drop some, dimes, way behind the defense and pick up, like 40-yard, passing games. And now it's like accelerating. So like, yeah. I know I've said it a million times, but like the first thing that you have to do in any football game is run and stop the run. And you know, if you can do the former, the game's over. If you can't do the latter, the game is over. And this game really illustrated that.
Hell yeah, I loved every minute of it. So I understand that we were trying some kind of like different looks defensively because we knew what Arizona was good at, which was that passing game. It seems, I mean, on paper, it seems like it worked out very well, and it allowed us to use some like different personnel in the for the defensive backs. What were your observations with that?
That was interesting. So it's not simply Arizona's passing attack is phenomenal. It's good, but it's specifically good at one thing, which it's just that they have like 4 different dudes who can do it, and so like it's very difficult to take it away. So specifically, what that is about the 12-yard dig route. So basically the receiver runs vertically and then on a dime breaks and runs horizontally inwards and like right over the quarterback's eyeballs, and and that's the easiest throw in the world for a quarterback, right? It's like it's right in front of him. He doesn't have to like compute arcs and trajectories and angles or anything. It's just like throw the ball directly in front of your face. And they've got like 4 really good receivers, each of whom can do that, and so it's like good luck stopping all 4 of them from doing that. And so Oregon did something really interesting in this game. They only had 36 meaningful snaps, so like this is on the defense, so this is like a little tough to extrapolate, but like on 12 of them, so a third of all of those snaps, they played a different defensive configuration than they had shown at any point prior in the year, which is it's a modified 33 stack. And I say modified because the 3 inside linebackers are not directly over the 3 defensive linemen, which is where stack gets its name. If you just imagine 3 defensive linemen and then directly, on top of them 3 inside linebackers, that's what a 33 stack traditionally looks like. And this was the Oregon's linemen were a little more spread out, and the inside linebackers were a little more compacted at the beginning of the snap, and then sometimes they'd flip that around so it looked more like a trapezoid than a rectangle. But then the other thing was that like one of Oregon's quote unquote defensive linemen was actually an outside linebacker. So like it's a 2-4 stack. I don't know how to describe it. But anyway,
can I ask a quick sidebar question on that?
Right.
Is there a set of boundaries and or rules in which you're allowed to move the players before it becomes like somehow illegal formation?
No. The defense,
so whenever you're playing with how you build a play, where they stand is kind of arbitrary. You can just kind of put them wherever.
On the defense, that's true. The offense has rules for how they have to line up and who needs to be set at the snap and who's allowed to be in motion and so forth. There's actually fairly extensive rules for the offense, but the defense, none.
We could put everyone on the line, or we could put everyone like 30 yards back.
However you want to defend that goal. Got it.
As long as there are no more than 11 players, you can do anything you want on the defense.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild game, my man. I love it.
So yeah, Oregon and the point of that was that having more inside linebackers, like those are the dudes that you need to provide underneath coverage for those throws over the middle, right? Like, so they just sort of it's sort of like they stand in the way of those throwing lanes, and it was fairly effective. There's one throw at the very beginning of the game in which Arizona does what I came to think of after doing 5 games of film study in Arizona as the Arizona throw. They get one Arizona throw off against the stack defense. It's their 3rd pass of the game. It's to their tight end. I put the clip in my article, and it's just Sewell is a little too far over, and that's how good DeLora is at that one particular thing. Is all you need to be is like a foot off of the lane, and he can squeeze that ball in. Like he's just done it. It's like the 10,000 hours of practice thing. It's just like he's just done it so often that like that's all the gap that he needs. But then they sort of like moved the linebacker a little bit over, in subsequent snaps, and basically every subsequent play that they went to pass, they were somewhat successful in the passing game. Oregon was only Oregon's defensive efficiency against the pass was only 56.5%, which is an above average number, but not an elite number. And considering that they were at like 80% in the other three quadrants of football, it's just like, shame on you, pass defense, but anyway, like what they were successful at doing was hitting like short slants and quick hitches, and that's why, Arizona couldn't sustain that over, full field drives, when they had to, instead of getting like 12 to 20 yards every pass, they were only getting like 6 or 7 yards every pass, like that's, that like doubles or triples the number of plays that you need to successfully conduct to march all the way down the field. And Arizona wasn't able to sustain that, especially given that they had zero running game. Oregon just completely shut down their running game with, yes, I know there is an obvious exception. But that, it's funny, like if you exclude their longest run in the game, Arizona goes down to 2.2 yards per carry, which is like, you're basically not running the ball at all.
And there's two, if I'm remembering correctly, there are 2 long runs, right?
Yes,
that really.
Yeah, and the second one is in that that like 30-second field goal drive, which in the interest of transparency, I'll say I excluded that drive because it's not garbage time. I guess is sort of a confusing term because it's like, well, they scored points and they counted and it was before the game was meaningfully decided, but like that's non-normal play. Like they, Oregon knew they were just trying to get into field goal range and he was sort of playing a prevent style defense. In fact, the defensive breakdown that happens with the first long run is not the defensive breakdown that happens with the second long run. What happens with that one during the field goal drive is that it's 3rd and 8 and they're expecting a pass and they basically got 2 guys in the box. And then when they run, it's just like, oh shoot, you can do that. I thought only we could do that. So like that one is sort of like, it's such a situational thing that I wound up excluding it. The one earlier is it's simply the linebackers in the wrong spot. It's Sewell and Flo, and one of them gets outside leverage and then the back makes an inside move, and so he starts to move inside, and then the other guy can't get around to the other gap. It's actually pretty boring. Unfortunately, in my copy of the broadcast video, there was like a glitch on that play, and so I couldn't put it in my article, but I found a tweet of somebody who's standing on the sideline who's just like their camera phone is pointed directly at the linebackers' backs, and so it shows it perfectly. So I put that tweet in my article. I was like, hey, this is sort of like film review.
Nice. That's pretty interesting. And I know like so many people excited about Flo. He's got those great crazy eyes that looks like they can just like freeze a quarterback.
That crazy. Okay, so the crazy eye post play look, the play in which that proceeded or preceded the crazy eye look was absolutely like I thought I was seeing like something out of a comic book movie, like what was that X-Men movie where Nightcrawler is like jumping around in the White House?
That would be X2, right?
Okay. Oh my God,
that's X2.
So anyway, like it's a wide zone run by Arizona, and the left guard. This clip is in my article. The left guard is supposed to come off of Riley, the defensive lineman, and move up to the second level to block Flo. But Flo, like, he's running and he looks like a normal human being, and then there is a moment that it looks like he teleports 2 yards behind the left guard. It's like, it doesn't, like, humans shouldn't be able to do that. And then he tackles the running back, and that's why he goes and looks at the sideline and looks like a crazy person, because he just pulled him, like he just did like a magic trick. It was insane. Like, watch that clip in my article. It's bonkers. He teleports 2 yards.
That is rad. And then, so I mean, obviously, physically, like, this is a dude that very much has the potential to be an NFL player, NFL starter. Are you seeing, like, basically the result of having been injured all of last season?
Oh yeah, it's very clear that his development is behind Sewell's, who, he came in at the same time and with the same talent rating, and yet, he's missed so much playing time. It's very clear that, like, his his development is just, lagged. But like in terms of physical talent, like, oh my God. I mean,
Nice.
I mean, he's a wild man, and like I have seen over the years various like wild man linebackers who like they just play with their hair on fire. They're just sort of crazy, and it's like
Troy Dye kind of had that energy sometimes. I feel, yeah.
no, so
Or you're
Troy Dye was
saying
technically sound.
truly.
I'm saying like 2-star, like Arizona's had a couple of them, like Colin Schooler, Scooby
Okay.
Wright, where it's just a wild man,
Like
kind
a
of
barbarian style of play. Like, just
Yeah, I
go
love
for
it.
But
yeah.
they're like 2-stars, and they're using like sort of wild, undisciplined, crazy, you can't stop me because, I'm willing to hurt myself, like play to make up for the fact that they're 2-stars. I've never seen it out of a 5-star, like Justin Flo plays like wild man, but he's also a 5-star who has, mutant powers to teleport behind linemen.
That's great. That is good to hear. So obviously with garbage time, there's so much you can get out of. What were some of the tastiest nuggets that you were able to get out of garbage time, especially with like Dante Manning missing some time, and like was there any like on the defense particularly anything that you got out of that you thought were in? Thought was interesting.
I'm sorry, I haven't looked at it at all. I just put it on the pile for this off-season project. I've started because this Oregon's got a long bye week. I've got a big backlog of film of other opponents, so I'm going to be able to go back and watch the UCLA versus South Alabama game. I got a jump start on that. I'm going to be able to watch some, I'm going to be able to watch some of Cal's older. I am increasingly thinking that Cal is the trap game of Oregon's schedule.
Really?
Yeah, it's going to be
Wow.
right. I mean, think about it. It's going to be right after UCLA, which is probably going to be a big game. It's on the road. It's a team that sort of is getting overlooked. I don't really think it's a good team, but like that's one of the elements of trap games.
Yeah.
So like, I'm going to have the opportunity to study a little more of Cal's tape than I otherwise might have, because I got basically a free day, because I wasn't looking at the garbage time tape. So sorry to answer your question with a non-answer, but hey, it might produce better articles in the future.
Hey, no worries. Were you at least excited to see Jaleel Florence out there?
I did get to see Jaleel Florence in non-garbage time. He got an interception. He played relatively well. There's a play in my article, and we gets beaten on double slant, where he and Manning both get beat on double slant play. And it's like, yeah, those guys are young. Take your lumps. Take your lumps now. In games that are ultimately going to be blowouts. I'd rather you be doing that than next year. When you're a starter in the opener.
People, I don't know, Duck fans in general of anything, tend to kind of hone in on like a particular player, whether they're right or wrong.
Oh boy!
Right now, people are doing that a lot to Bridges. Any kind of like comment on how he was playing this game, like any like little like back off, or like, yes, he did that wrong, but like, what you gonna do? Or
well, yeah, I mean. Yeah, he gets beat by Singer on that sideline route. It's the only sideline route they hit, but yeah, he definitely, he got beat. And Delore, places that ball exactly where it needs to be, and Singer's, very quick. And yeah, he definitely does. And to the extent that you want to criticize a cornerback for getting beat, yes, he deserves that. I will say though, all cornerbacks, even the very best ones, Richard Sherman, et cetera, like all get beat from time to time. The other guy gets paid too, or at least in the NFL, and definitely not in college, right? And the other thing about him is that, and I guess there was that defensive holding play that he got called for, but then the broadcast never showed the route. It was just like people were just standing around, like they never showed the hold, and they didn't go to a replay of it. And I was just like, well, I guess I'll take your word on it, Pac-12 ref. Actually, if anybody was in Tucson and saw that play, or happens to have like a camera phone video of it, I would like to take a look. But like, beyond that, that's it. He played a pretty good game. They were pretty good in coverage. There's a clip in my article in which he's tag teaming with Gonzalez on on, another deep shot to throw McMillan and, knock that ball down. And McMillan is so good that even though he's double coverage and they have to leap for the ball, he almost pulls the ball down. Like, it's only Gonzalez getting inside his guard to rip it away as he's coming down that like prevents that from being a catch. It's crazy. But like, yeah, no, Bridges is fine. Like, and I think having watched a little bit more of Manning and Florent in this game, because we had to, right? Like, Oregon was making an interesting move where they were playing 3 cornerbacks, and then Manning got that targeting ejection in the first half. So like, we saw more of these guys, and it's sort of like the theory that I had back during the BYU game is that Bridges isn't a natural cornerback, but the guys that Oregon has who are natural cornerbacks are young and aren't reliable yet. And so Bridges' reliability is outweighing his, his sort of physical deficiencies because he's supposed to be playing safety, not corner. And
he's a bridge at cornerback is what you're saying to next season.
Adam.
I mean, is he not? Is he not?
And like, I think, as time goes on, I'm getting more and more evidence for that, view. And it's like, what are you going to, you got to make the best of a bad situation. Like, that's just what the situation that this staff inherited at cornerback, because 3 dudes left when Cristobal left. So yeah. It is what it is, I guess. Like, but it's not the end of the world. And like, there are very few teams that Oregon plays that have like multiple receivers that you need to have a total lockdown corner on. Like, it's not the end of the world. Like, if teams have to hit deep shots to beat you, that means that everything else is going, right. Teams don't like throwing deep shots, against okay coverage. They really only try that out because they're backed into a corner. And if you backed them into a corner, you're like most of the way to a win anyway. So,
and with the way it's not what troubles
me.
Yeah, with the way our offense go right now, it's like, okay, well, you'll need to hit that shot like regularly. Hopefully, if everything's going according to plan. This game was a sellout. I really like that.
They claimed that anyway.
They claim they claimed there was 50,000 people there.
They claimed that 56,000 tickets were sold.
Okay.
But I love that it was empty at a certain point.
Oh yeah, but then
they didn't bring that part up. I don't.
Well, I mean, they've got a lot of stuff to do in Tucson. Let's be fair. There's a lot of demands on the Tucson customers.
There's leave Tucson. There's somewhere else.
It's a UNESCO food heritage site.
Oh well, there you go. Yeah. Oh boy, yeah. This
Actually,
game,
best tamales I've ever had were in Tucson. I don't mean to talk crap about Tucson.
Best tamales I ever had were in my kitchen, made by my mom. So
damn.
Every Christmas.
Your recently married mother. Congratulations.
My recently married mother, recently Laura Ramos, no longer Lord Chamail. I am the last living Chamail, except for my 2 sisters, but not for long. Anyways, anything else?
Are you going to kill your sisters?
We can't. Right? This will be scrubbed. If I remember to edit this out, it'll be out.
You've been watching that dragon show too much.
I haven't watched a single minute of that show. They're not going to trick me to get back into Game of Thrones. That's how I feel. That's my stance right now. Is there anything else to be said about? Well, how about that? Like, Jedfish. Or, I mean, like, obviously he gets to, like, hey, this program's alive when it was dead. That is awesome. Are you getting, like, feelings of, like, wow, this guy, there really is a lot out of him. He may be out of Arizona soon or something like that, just because, like, this guy is really turning this program around? Or are you just being, like, he's got the competency? Good for him.
Do you mean he's going to be fired because he's a fraud, or do you mean he's going to be hired away by a more prominent program?
Hired away.
Awesome.
That's what I'm saying. Oh, hired away.
Boy, I don't know. Maybe. I hadn't really considered that. I guess I just haven't been thinking about the coaching carousel, although I guess we're getting close to the time when you should.
Hey. Maybe Arizona State will hire him away.
I do think this is for real. I do. I think that Jed Fish does clever stuff. I think sometimes he's belated to do clever stuff, but belated clever stuff is still better than most Pac-12 coaches. the talent upgrade on the offense was real and painful too. Like here, I'll tell you a story. So in 2021, I was doing film study across the Pac-12, and there were a bunch of teams that had disappointing seasons, right? Washington and USC both went 4-8 and fired their coaches. Arizona State won 8 games, but there was a point where they clearly just like packed it in. It's like basically they lost to Utah. They couldn't win the division, and they were just like not interested in playing football anymore. And like, and then Arizona was the team that had like the biggest, case of all to pack it in, because that was a 1-11 team, and even the one win had an asterisk next to it. But you know what? When you're watching film, and I know this is going to sound a little fuzzy and unquantifiable, but I tell you what, I've been doing this for a long time, and you can see it. There, motivated players play through the whistle. And they play on every single play, and they give it, 100%. And you can watch teams that have packed it in, and what you are seeing is they're not giving it 100%. It's not total mental concentration. There tend to be a lot of penalties and, frustration stuff, or, guys running the wrong routes, assignment errors, and just like lack of effort. Like you can see it on film. I'm not making this up. Like that's one of those things that I know a lot of silly commentators who don't do film study will just reach for that as an explanation, and they're just sort of bullshitting about it. Like they're, like they don't know whether that's true or not. Not really, but like I do. And I'm telling you, there are circumstances in which I see it, and I saw it with USC, and I saw it with Washington, and I saw it with Arizona State last year. But you know what team
I've seen it with Oregon.
Yeah. In the past, I definitely have. You know what team I didn't not in 2021, I don't think. Like I think that was a different issue if you're referring, and I'm limiting my comments to 2021 right now. But like the team that I didn't see give up was the team that had the greatest reason to, and that was Arizona. They were playing through to the whistle for Jed Fish last year. And then here's where this becomes a story. So Arizona, because I maintain an entire database of every Pac-12 player, I'm able to compute what the actual average talent rating on a team is at any given moment. 247 does a team talent composite, but because they're not doing, moment-to-moment updates of who's actually on the roster, given departures and medical, absences and so forth, like they can't actually do this, but I can. And Arizona, moved from 2021 to 2022, moved from the last spot up 2 spots. It was a giant talent transformation. Like they took the biggest step in the entire Pac-12. Vastly eclipsed everybody else's, steps, and then also a lot of teams stepped backwards, like Washington did, for example. Anyway, but what a big part of that talent transformation, it's not just bringing in some 4 stars, it's also shedding a bunch of 2 stars. And those 2 stars were the dudes who were playing through to the whistle for Jed Fish in 2021. And then he, basically turns around and says, thank you for your service. There's no room for you on the roster anymore because I'm bringing in 4 stars. And it's like,
that's some big time decision making.
Yeah, that's why, this is tough. This is a tough business. Motivate the hell out of kids and then send them on their way, because like Arizona had a ton of people leave through the transfer portal last year. And to make room for the, the big talent transformation. It's like, yeah.
And he took a perfectly good Delora that no one was using, and he put it to good use.
And more to the point, designed an offense that limited the ways that Jaden Laura tends to put his teams in trouble, which, also a smart move.
Very good point. All right, everyone. So now we're getting into it. We're getting to the one that everyone's waiting for, and that is the beloved
Bottom 11.
That is right, the bottom 11. The Ducks at the very tippy top of the Pac-12. So all those other schools, well, they must be the bottom 11. Aaron and I made our picks last week. We got the results here.
Oh, boy.
Interesting week. Week for the results, too. So let's start it off.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, no worries. This is the game I was by far most confident in. This was the game I was confident in. Washington State at USC, at number 6 USC. I thought for sure Washington's defense was going to get there and was going to get behind that O-line, cause some mischief, cause some problems, cause some chaos, make this a close game, certainly have them cover. That was what I was feeling very confident in. But I also have them straight up winning, as did you. Aaron, unfortunately, that did not happen.
That's fine.
I didn't watch this game because the Ducks game was going on.
Right.
I do believe, if I'm remembering correctly. 30-14, USC wins this, and this is because USC had a really good second half showing, and from what I understand, the refs showed up quite a bit in this game. It must have been very frustrating. Basically, Washington State's offense was just not able to produce anything in that second half. And my dear cover and my win, both of our win, went out the window because USC remained undefeated and a top 10 team.
Bullshit.
I guess it makes sense. I mean, they're undefeated. They're scoring a lot of points, but I still have a hard time believing they're a top 10 team. But they're a top 10 team. Got to be good for us. Have you seen any of this? Hythloday probably didn't really line up too well with your viewing, but
it kicked off an hour and a half before the Oregon game, so I got to watch the
That's
first
right.
half. And it looked like a competitive game in the first half, and then I didn't watch the second half, and then I looked at the box score, and I'm like, Wazoo, where'd your offense go?
Yeah.
It does look like, a lot of penalties on Wazoo, 11 for 106 yards. It's, double what USC got. USC's offensive performance doesn't look phenomenal here. 6 of 15 on third down, only
Travis Dye
passing yards. Yeah, but but only 181 rushing yards for the entire team, only 4.5 yards per rush, which is not a super number. And I don't know. I think USC is vulnerable. I don't know what happened to Washington State's offense in the second half. I guess I'd have to watch film, and this is a pretty low priority game because Oregon doesn't play USC and hasn't played Wazoo, or has already played Wazoo. So I'm probably not going to look at this until the offseason. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, that's about how
it does sort of look like USC is not this world-wrecking team. I think that's been fairly clear through 6 weeks.
Yeah, I don't think so too, because it's not like they're a team where it's they can completely rely on their offense to obliterate everybody, because there's still issues on their offensive line. Their receivers are amazing. Caleb Williams is amazing, but I just don't think they're gonna guaranteed score so high and that you're gonna, I don't know. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I would be really interested to find out what happened to Wazoo's offense versus USC's defense in the second half, because, I'm looking at the box score, no turnovers for USC, and that had been their saving grace. And otherwise, bad defense would then, get a turnover and make them look better than they really were. But that doesn't appear to be the case in this game. So, I don't know. Maybe they found something in their defensive line that they hadn't previously identified, or what.
Listen to Reign of Troy to find out.
Yeah.
Here we go. So then we got number 11 Utah at number 18 UCLA. Very excited. I was very excited about this one. Both those games I was, but those were the headliners. I went with UCLA. You will not back Potato Chip Kelly, as you call him. A little rude, but
can't do it. Not for
I
one
backed
whole
UCLA.
season.
Yeah, because I didn't like Utah's offensive weapons. Just don't scare me as much. Cam Rising, he's a good mobile quarterback. That's his best threat, it seems like, because his offensive, at least, the passing game just hasn't been there since Keithy's been gone.
He's got a great name.
Cam Rising. Yeah, isn't that a good one? He's a good quarterback, but their offense just hasn't scared me as much. Their run game certainly hasn't scared me as much, and their defense isn't there. Especially without Lloyd really patrolling it. I don't know. It's just not it's basically that same old Utah team, except they're not as good at doing all those same old Utah stuff. You went with Utah. I went with UCLA. DTR had himself a game, having himself a great season. Now's the time to have yourself a really good season if you're DTR. Yeah. It's been long enough. And they win this one 42-32. UCLA had a real good season behind, as they keep saying, their big three. Because Charbonnet is really fun to watch too. Got to say that. So I get a point here.
Their big three? What does that mean?
That's what the announcers keep saying. They'd be like, on offense, it's DTR, Charbonnet, and Bobo. They may just really love saying
They got
Bobo.
more weapons than that. Like,
I know, but big three sounds really
Bobo
good.
didn't-
Hythloday.
But
I think
Hythloday
Bobo
is
only
every
had like
video
a
game-
couple of catches in this game. Like,
yeah, no. But his
As
name's
every-
Bobo.
yeah, as every video game clearly states, you can only carry 3 weapons with you at a time, but you can have a whole payload.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah. Yeah, so UCLA wins this one. How much? I know you're about to do a whole bunch of UCLA study Hythloday.
Yeah, and Utah. That one's later on the schedule.
What? How do you feel about DTR specifically? What you've seen of him, anyways? Have you
He
seen
looks like a
marked
fifth-year starting
improvement?
quarterback.
Yeah,
He looks
exactly.
like,
Right.
He looks like he was a highly talented guy out of high school, and he's played for 5 years. For the same coach. Like, yeah, this is he's supposed to look like this. There's obviously still flaws in his game, and but like a lot of the stuff about UCLA, like one of the things I've been rapping Chip Kelly on the knuckles for all 40 years or previous 40 years at UCLA was this wacky playbook that's like it changes every week and it's got a million plays in it and there's a million different formations, and he really sort of ditched all of that for this season. They're really playing almost exclusively out of 11 personnel. He had like one interesting kind of I guess I would call it a pistol 20 that he ran a couple different runs out of against Washington. None of them really worked, and like I don't think that I saw it again in this game, although maybe I will when I actually do film study. But like, yeah, he's sort of running. It's not the Oregon Blur offense exactly, but it has some elements, and it has the sort of like simplicity thing in common where it's like, really there's only about, a dozen main plays in this playbook. And like a couple of them, they're not very good at, but they call too much, like their offensive line is just not that good at run blocking. And unless Zach Charbonnet, does some fun stuff, they're really not getting that many, they're not getting much in the way of line yards. I guess I'd put it that way. And like, and I think really in many ways, this game, this wasn't a surprise for me for what UCLA wanted to do on offense. It was a bit of a surprise, but maybe not that much of a surprise that Utah couldn't stop them. Cause like, you already mentioned that Utah is down some offensive personnel. It's I would actually say they're down 3 different important pieces because they, in the off season, they lost Cole Fotheringham, the 3rd tight end, that Andy Ludwig wants to have. And they lost Britton Covey, who like finally retired after like 20 years in college football. And so like they were really putting a lot on Keithy's shoulders, and then now he's out for the season with I think that surgical issue. And just like the rest of the team, there's no talent. Like, and like that's been the case forever for Utah. Like, there's just no talent in the receivers. Andy Ludwig is not interested in throwing the ball to the receivers. He's really only throwing balls to tight ends. And he's only got one left, one functional one, who's Dalton Kincaid, who's a real great story. He's like an unrated Division II transfer or FCS, I forget. But like. Yeah, and he turns out to be much better than that indicates. But like Andy Ludwig can't sustain an offense if he doesn't have 3 functional tight ends. Like, I'm sorry, I've been watching way too much film on this guy to believe anything else. And
it's
like
very funny when Utah fans were starting to wake up. So I feel like specifically this year, how many were being like, I feel like we're throwing to the tight end quite a bit here, and it's like.
Yeah, like they're fine with it, and when they've got good tight ends, and then all of a sudden they realize like if you don't, like, what's your plan B? And Andy Ludwig's like, oh, what plan B? But you already mentioned that. What's sort of disturbing, the somewhat surprising, although maybe not really surprising, is that like Utah's defense doesn't look good this year. Like they get some picks. In fact, Clark Phillips got yet another pick 6 in what was probably should be characterized as garbage time at the end of this game. But like. their defensive line is just not scary. And like UCLA's offensive line is not great. Like if this were a great Utah defensive line, they would be doing a lot more than they were in this game. Like that's, and they lost both of their linebackers. Utah was confident they'd be able to, replace those linebackers. No, they haven't at all. Those guys they're not good. They look like Washington's inside linebackers, which is to say bad. And this is what happens when you have Utah's a much lower talent profile team than the rest of the teams at the top of the conference. And like what happens when you have some busts is you can fall apart real fast. Like you can go from like being a really, and like Utah looks like a complete team, because they do put a real emphasis on development, having kids in the program for a long time before they're really playing, and they have their roster is enormous, and so they get to rotate a lot of dudes, and they can cover up sort of problems with freshness, I mean like fresh bodies, and like but like if it turns out you've got some busts at like the key spots, like the way that their defense puts everything on their linebackers and the way that their offense puts everything on their tight ends, if you've got some problems at those key positions, like it can go downhill real fast. And I think this might be the beginning of that of that happening.
Whittingham last year would have been a pretty good year to retire on. Just saying. Okay, let's get into the really fun one. Now, there was 2 games. Do you remember this, Aaron? That I begged you, no, there was one game. I was like, I want to change my Stanford
and then I made you
pick.
change the other.
You made me change the other one, so I did both. So I'll get to the one you made me change.
I feel like
you made me go with my heart. You made me go with Arizona State. And Aaron, Arizona State pulled off the upset victory with the backup quarterback, who was kind of supposed to be the starter before Emory Jones got there. But anyways, 45-38. Yes, Arizona State, I mean, not head coachless because they do have a head coach, but like zombie Arizona State comes out. And what do they do? They do the thing they always damn do. They beat the Huskies in the desert, because that's what they do. They always do that. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't even take this as like for the Huskies. I feel like it's still like year one. They're coming back from like, they got a lot of talent, but they're coming back from like a tough situation, what was going on with Jimmy Lake. And, they started off really strong. People thought they were a little stronger because of the Michigan State win, but like I still think they're going like overall good for their program and stuff like that. Like I think Kalen DeBoer's a good coach. I think this loss doesn't actually mean all that much for their whole endeavor, but it's funny as hell and it gets me the win, and that makes me excited. That's about all I have to say about this game. Yes, and I was right. I was right.
Congratulations. Too. Good job. I'm so happy that we did that deal.
Absolutely. I don't know. And then there was the Oregon-Arizona game. We already talked about that. And then there was this game.
Aaron, wait, hold on. That's all you want to say about Washington losing to Arizona State?
What do you got to say? Pile it on, please.
They absorbed all the desert magic.
Yeah, for us. Good point. It went over there.
The Pacific Northwest appeased the gods of sagebrush and saguaros and scorpions by sacrificing the Washington Huskies to zombie Arizona State, and they sucked up all, and like there was crazy desert magic stuff happening in this game. Like Penix throws a ball that bounces off of his lineman's helmet and then shoots straight up in the air and turns into a pick six for Arizona State. Like
that is very true. For a team that won by 1 touchdown, that was a pretty chaotic, crazy play. Yeah, good point. It was fun to watch.
What's your sign?
Excuse me?
What's your sign?
My
astrological,
zodiac
my dear
sign?
boy. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you that.
All right.
Oh, dang. We were so close. To narrowing down his location from that. We'll get to the final one. Oregon State at Stanford. This game was late as hell. It wrapped up at like 11:40 or something like that. I was watching it. I was having a great time. Oregon State did not look good at all. Stanford looked good compared to Oregon State. Like, they were leading the whole time. Not like comfortably, but by just what you were seeing on the field, it was comfortably. Like, it just didn't feel like Oregon State had it in them.
Bummer.
Apparently, they also had a hard time with like a long snapper or something like that. So like the kicking game was pretty off.
Their long snapper had
For the
some
Beavers,
sort of like cut or something on his hand, and so he couldn't reliably snap the ball because apparently you can't wear gloves to do like you have to. I don't really understand, but they couldn't use their long snapper, and so like guess what? Your long snapper's in on a bunch of different types of plays. He's in on punts. He's in on extra points. He's in on field goals. So like those are like. Those are tools those are like strategic tools that coaches make decisions on, and so all of those got taken away. So it's like, well, we got to go for 2 every time, and we can never punt, and which
was nice. Like, at first it was like scary because it looked like Jonathan Smith was like in a boneheaded decision because he was like down 2 touchdowns, he scores 1, and then he goes for 2, and you're like, hold on, is Mark Helfrich out there? What the hell is going on? But you find out later because of that. So then they're down 8 points. I do believe like Stanford. Oh yeah, so then they score again. They're down by, I don't know, by some, like not a full touchdown length. Stanford goes, they like are killing the clock. They hit a field goal, I do believe, or something like that. So they're up, is all I'm saying. Oregon State needs a touchdown to win the game or something like that. I mean, they're not kicking the field goal, that's for sure.
Right.
And so they're going on this miraculous like final drive, and it doesn't really feel like they got it in. Backup quarterback, because Nolan's still out. Oregon State.
I don't know. I think it might be a decision at this point. Like, I think that Smith may have just pulled the trigger and switched starting quarterback.
Hey. Fair enough. Smith, I'm not going to argue with him ever again. He's a genius. And so, like, he just kind of chucks up this, like, YOLO ball, just, like, kind of, like, to the sideline. Like, the guy is covered. Like, there's a Stanford defender there. But my man, Oregon State Beaver receiver, grabs this ball kind of, like, just past the Stanford receiver's helmet. Like, it's a really strange,
it's like
crazy catch.
The cornerback is just sort of standing still, and the ball is on top of his helmet, and the receiver takes it off of the top of his helmet. It looks like, when the uncle pulls a quarter from the 5-year-old's ear, like, look, I have magic. It's like, it looks like he pulled a football out of his helmet, and he's like, oh my God, uncle. Grabs
that. It would have been amazing for him just to, be like, oh, I'm getting out of bounds. Wow, we're in such great territory. But he grabs that, goes out. The Stanford safety was thinking about his next final or something because he was just not in the spot where he needed to be, I guess. Because my man goes all the way down, scores. There's 13 seconds left in the game. They win the game. Stanford.
Wow.
I chose Stanford in this because this is the one I switched on. I thought I had it. I thought I was a genius. No, I am not. Or they lose. This is like their 10th or 11th straight FBS loss for Stanford. Oregon State gets a sneaky win because Jonathan Smith is awesome.
Yeah, I actually assumed you also won this one because I was just paying attention through the updates of our game, I think. Mm-hmm. And it was like, oh, that's a Dunzo's deal.
Absolutely. No, it was not. Yeah, exactly. It was a really funny game.
Funny. I got one.
And like you got to see the rare Stanford fan out there, and like you got to see them upset. It was kind of nuts. It's like a nature documentary or something like that. Anyways, so I got 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I got 3 right. You, on the other hand, got a mere 2 right. Come on, Aaron. You got Oregon. You got Oregon State right. That's it.
Tough season.
So I'm at 37. You were at 31. We're on a bit of a time crunch, so I'm going to just run through this next segment if y'all don't mind. But
blast them. Speed round.
Absolutely. That segment would be the picks. Yes. Making
okay, I'm best when I have to think fast.
Absolutely. Well, I got to put on background music, even if there is a time.
Oh, my goodness. We're burning time, baby doll.
Okay. Here we go, Aaron. So, we've got started off Washington State at Number 6 USC. Please allow me to pick first since I have
that's
the
last
lead.
week's.
Yes, it is, because we just talked about that game. But I would still pick Wazoo, even if I had. I was about to say Wazoo right after the bat. Here we go.
Funny.
Week 7, no Oregon game. Cal at Colorado is where we start off. 11 a.m. on the Pac-12 network. Aaron, let me do you a favor again and tell you Colorado is bad.
Bad.
They ain't winning anything.
And
They
their mascot
may beat Cal.
is named Chip.
And their mascot is named Chip.
Ooh, shit.
Not their
Remember
live
that.
mascot. That's named Ralphie. But the
Well,
human one.
well,
The
Adam,
cute
you have
one.
to pick first.
Yeah, I got to pick first. I'm picking Cal. Absolutely Cal. We're both picking Cal, of course. Lock of the week. After that, we got Arizona at Washington. So Desert going up to Seattle. They're pesky against us. I mean, kind of. Not really. That's selling it too much. I think Washington is going to bounce back. Yeah, Washington's got this one.
Washington.
Feels right.
Give me Arizona.
Arizona.
Oh, nice.
Down as a side. I know I'm not playing, but like. give me
No, I like this. If you got a fun pick like that,
I'll tell you what, I'll do one a week, and it'll be the
Yes.
like the I'll tell you which game is going to be the ooh, that was weird game.
I
And,
love
yeah,
that.
I predict you. Yeah, this is the weird one.
I'm gonna create a little sound bump for it too.
Oh,
Hits
great.
freak pick or something. I don't know. Well,
I
better
mean,
name
Washington's defense is straight up bad, and Arizona's passing offense is straight up good, and like Washington may be demoralized, and I don't feel like Jetfish's players are going to be demoralized. You know, watching them, I think players like playing for Jetfish, and I think he's going to be like, oh, plus the other thing is Arizona is doing this alternating pattern where they win a game, lose a game, win a game, lose a game. Well, they just came off a loss, so they're due.
All right.
I love it. And also, it is that thing where when like programs will benefit from what you think of them at. Like you think of Utah as like this amazing impenetrable front seven, and sometimes they'll benefit off that even if they don't have that or something.
Mhm.
I think in my head, I still think like Washington, amazing secondary, and that may not be the case.
Not true.
Not this season.
Not even close to being true.
Stanford at Notre Dame. Nerd on nerd we got here. Notre Dame is doing better than what looks like a possible garbage fire. They are doing better, though. Stanford, I think they're bad. They bad. I mean, they had what could have been a win, their only Pac-12 win, and it didn't work out. Does Stanford play Colorado? That will be interesting.
They do
I hope
not.
they do. They don't? Damn it!
I know
that would have been
two
good.
different teams who really could have used playing Colorado. Both missed Colorado, and those are Stanford and Arizona.
Oh, that's such a
No,
bummer.
wait, Arizona plays Colorado. They already beat them. Somebody
Oh,
else.
yeah.
Sorry.
That was a
about
forgettable one. Maybe Cal. No, Cal played them too. Anyways, this week. Duh. Anyways, Notre Dame. Notre Dame, absolutely.
Notre Dame.
Yep. President Bartlett would be happy. Number 7 USC at number 20 Utah. USC. This is at Utah. This is at Utah. I'll go with Utah. Why not? This is fun.
USC.
I think you went with the safe pick. Go with the talent. You're probably right, but USC's got to lose at some point. I don't think they're going 12-0. I mean, USC UCLA is going to be a great game, but this could be it. They could be losing this one. Final game. Then we got to head out. Washington State at Oregon State.
Wazoo. Wazoo's the other team that Colorado doesn't play.
Oh, there you go. This is a real scrap pile here because we got two scrappy teams. Wazoo at Oregon State. I think Oregon State's just a little bit too bruised and beaten up. I don't think they're going to luck out like they did against Stanford. Wazoo's hungry. They got some actual like stuff they can rely on this team. Oregon State not so much right now. Wazoo, yes, Wazoo lock.
Oregon State.
Desperate, I see.
I like it. I kind of like that pick, honestly. They are playing in the Potato Salad Palace, where they are a phenomenal team.
Wonderful. All right, everybody. And that was the picks. That has been the Quack 12 podcast. Once again, follow our dear guest, our dear resident film reviewer at Hythloday 1, HYTHLODAY, the number 1 on Twitter. Follow us at Quack 12 podcast. You can go to our website. If you want to give us money, we'd really appreciate it. You can do that at the Patreon or give us 5 stars on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on anything. We love y'all. Go Ducks. We don't have a game next week, but we'll still be talking about some games next week.
Oh, yeah.
So excited. Yeah, go Ducks, y'all. Quack, quack.
Quack, quack.
Bye.